thank you so much for being on the show.
Pleasure.
This movie scared the shit out of me. Was that the goal?
Yeah, it's a tough time in America right now, and I think we all have to pay attention to whether we stay a democracy or not. And that's what the point of this film was, is to get us to think about that.
Yeah. It really, really does. Ken, you're a military veteran, a former Navy pilot. You can absolutely say that the vast majority of veterans have not joined these extremist groups, but for those that have, what's so compelling to them to join the Oath Keepers, the Proud Boys, 3%ers?
Well, I'm glad you recognize that the vast majority of my buddies, my brothers and sisters in arms, don't go join the Proud Boys or the Oath Keepers. But the ones that do, in many cases, do it out of a sense of needing to recapture that camaraderie and that sense of belonging that they felt in uniform. When you take the uniform off, that goes away almost overnight. And one of the things these groups do really, really well is recreate that by giving these veterans that sense of purpose and that sense of mission. The problem is that mission is undermining democracy.
Sebastian, you explored, you co-directed an award-winning documentary, Restrepo, that explores the war in Afghanistan, and you've extensively talked about combat veterans reintegrating into civilian life in your book, Tribe. What is it specifically about the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq that play a role in everything that we're seeing right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's complicated. The guys I was with in Afghanistan off and on for a year, you know, they sort of trended conservative, but I can't imagine any one of those guys doing anything like what happened on January 6th. The real combat veterans usually don't have anything to prove. And I think one of the ways that the January 6th crowd is dangerous, they're dangerous in two different ways. One is that there are some real deal special forces guys who know what they're doing, who could organize a very serious violent situation in this country. And we have to be very, very careful of those guys. I would say most of the guys on January 6th with the beards and the, camo, the tactical pants, et cetera, might have been in the military, but probably never saw combat. And I think that makes them extremely dangerous because they have this sort of fantasy of themselves as a hero, along with probably some psych disorders, and that creates a very, very dangerous mix.
Yeah, well, you bring that up. Would you say that is it fair to say that in this country we could have stronger support systems for those veterans who are coming back and reintegrating into society?
Yes, I don't think that's the problem here with these guys. I think they're sort of willing dupes of a dishonest ex-president, and they were they wanted to believe something, and they wanted a war to fight, and they wanted to act in a supposedly heroic way at a crucial moment in history and save the nation, except it's all nonsense, right? And but that aside, just generally for vets, absolutely. We live in an amazing but alienating modern society, and vets come back, and it's very hard to fit in. And frankly, it's very hard for all of us to fit in. I mean, the depression and suicide rate in this country is through the roof. Why would that be?
Right. So extremist groups have been in the U.S. for a long time, but what makes this particular moment so impactful and so dangerous?
Yeah. We have dealt since our founding as a country with extremism, with extremist groups, but you have to go back a long ways to find a period in American history where a domestic terrorist movement has the cover of a political party. That is a new situation when you have a former president name-checking an organization, the Proud Boys, deemed by Canada as a terrorist entity, name-checking them from behind a presidential podium. That is incredibly invigorating for these organizations. And you probably have to go back to the rise of the KKK in the South to find an analog to a terrorist movement that had major political cover and used it to wreak havoc.
You bring up the former president. He has certainly said some controversial things about veterans, somewhat disrespectful, some might say. He's asked wounded vets to not appear at his events. He's called American service members who have passed suckers and losers. Why is it that you find that your military brothers and sisters are coming to his side?
We all know he has no respect for the military. He disdains the very idea of service. He didn't just call those who serve suckers, he calls those who died fighting for the country suckers. He called those who put on the uniform to serve their country losers. I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that every single veteran knows between now and the election just how disdainful of the very idea of service the former president is.
There's no real evidence so far that Trump and his followers will accept the election results upcoming. How do you see this playing out?
It could go a number of ways. I mean, I certainly hope that the person who tried to end democracy doesn't win a second term. Even if he loses, though, I think we all know that he's not going to concede. He tried to overthrow the results of a free and fair election once. I assume he'll do it again. I know Sebastian has thoughts on this, but I think we need to be prepared for the worst.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't think of a good reason why there wouldn't be violence if Trump loses. He hasn't. I mean, he's all in now, right? Like, if he doesn't get reelected, he's wide open to criminal prosecution. Like, it's the only thing protecting him, and it shouldn't even protect him, but it seems to be for the moment.
Yeah.
So he's got nothing to lose.
Mm-hmm. A lot of these far-right extremists don't trust the government. They don't trust the media. They are untrusting of our intelligence agencies. Do you see any kind of hopeful time in our future where we're all dealing with the same facts?
I think...
A glimmer of hope, please.
I think it starts with conversations like this. It starts with films like Against All Enemies. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to one-on-one conversations. Mm-hmm. It's going to come down to a family member who cares about a veteran who is at that crossroads between doing something noble like joining Team Rubicon and helping disaster relief victims across the country, or joining the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers and undermining democracy. That decision often comes down to a conversation with someone who cares about that veteran.
Well, thank you so much for being on. Thank you for making this incredible film and starting this conversation. Against All Enemies is in select theaters and available on VOD. Ken Harbaugh and Sebastian Junger.